Hi, my name is Anakaren Murguia, and this is my narrated presentation on the Bondwoman's narrative. The Bondwoman's narrative, quote, "There might have been a slight contraction more than usual on his brow, and a rapid gleam of hate or satisfied malice shone in his eye, but quickly passed, and his countenance became like a frozen lake when lit by moonlight, cold, unimpassioned, and utterly dead to all feelings of sympathy as he began." Imagery and diction. Mr. Trapp's face tells us all about what type of person he is. Mr. Trapp is described as having a rapid gleam of hate and satisfied malice in his eye, which serves as a form of imagery. As the popular saying goes, eyes are the windows to the soul. Someone's eyes can say a lot about them, and in this case, Mr. Trapp's eyes show us that he is dangerous and is not to be trusted. Also, his eyebrow is described as contracting, which is another form of imagery that helps the reader imagine what his face looks like. When I read this, I imagined a sinister, evil, angry-looking man, almost like the man on the photo to the right. His face says 1,000 words and proves that he has bad intentions. The diction in this passage helps create an image in the reader's mind of what Mr. Trapp might look like. He is so evil that an evil presence just seems to ooze out of him and is shown through his face. Simile. Mr. Trapp is compared to a frozen lake brightened by the moonlight. This means that his emotions are detached, calculated, emotionless, robotic, and lifeless like a lake. For a moment, Mr. Trapp lets his emotions get to him, and it is shown on the expression on his face. However, he soon changes to an emotionless, almost mechanical expression in order to take control of the situation and prove how powerful he is by not letting obstacles get to him. Mr. Trapp is compared to a lake because the deeper and deeper you penetrate through Mr. Trapp's surface and the more exposed you are to his character or personality, the more farther away you get from any sense of light, warmth, safety, or comfort, and the more you realize you are in danger. A frozen lake in the night is incredibly dark, and if you were to submerge yourself underwater, you would soon find yourself enveloped in darkness. The more time you spend around Mr. Trapp, the more that you feel a presence of darkness or evil envelop around you. You can drown and die in a lake. Just being associated with Mr. Trapp as an African American would grant you a death warrant. Theme. Some themes that are present all throughout the novel and in this passage are the themes of good versus evil, oppression, and slavery. All throughout the novel, Hannah is constantly found at the mercy of her masters, slave traders, and even at one point, slave catchers. Slaves aren't taught how to read or write and aren't allowed to pursue an education for fear that they would rebel against their masters and seek freedom. Slaves are punished if they disobey their masters and murdered or tortured in terrible ways. Even when a slave manages to run away and escape, there is still a high chance of said slave being caught, returned to their master owner, and being severely punished. When a slave has escaped, the woods or forest or whatever setting they find themselves in immediately becomes a hunting ground. They become a target and get hunted down as if they are wild animals that need to be forced into submission. Bad people seem to thrive for a while, and they may even live long and happy lives, unharmed and unpunished. Meanwhile, the innocent suffer lives of hardship, pain, and they die young. Motif. Some examples of recurring motifs in this passage are the moonlight and the nighttime. Whenever the moonlight and henceforth the nighttime appear in this story, they usually signify that something bad is about to happen or that danger is afoot. During the nighttime, Hannah and her mistress, along with other runaway slaves, are usually hunted down and trapped by slave catchers, making it the most dangerous time of the day for such individuals. The motif of the moonlight is a paradox in this story. On the one hand, the moonlight can give one hope and inspire awe in those who admire it. On the other hand, it can also inspire fear because the moonlight exposes runaway slaves who are hiding and trying to seek refuge in the woods or within nature. It makes them easily visible and can put runaway slaves at risk of being caught. The moonlight can be seen as a beacon of hope for slaves or a guiding light for slave catchers. Genre and symbolism. This story has many elements of the Gothic or dark romanticism. Many of these elements are symbols of nature. Nature is used as a symbol in Gothic literature, such as in this story, to represent death, destruction, gloominess, evil, and danger. Some symbols of nature in this novel are the wind, thunder, rain, trees, the moon, the clouds, the woods, the night, darkness, animals, and in this case, a lake. These symbols are also meant to give an air of looming, approaching danger, suspense, forebodings of misfortune, death, omens or warnings, etc. When the weather changes drastically in this story, it foreshadows that something bad is about to occur. Mr. Trapp is the chief oppressor of this novel and is associated with something as dark as a lake in the night. This makes him a symbol of institutional slavery. He wears all black, has black eyes, is greedy, is described as a malevolent presence or shadow, etc. He is the evil of slavery personified. Archetype or antagonist. Mr. Trapp is the classic archetype of the villain. He is a cruel human being who purposefully gets involved with families, does deep research into their backgrounds, finds evidence of black blood in their backgrounds, and uses this evidence to his advantage for profit. He is driven by money and has no problem objectifying his victims, treating them like property, and selling them off to slave traders. He has no heart, no sympathy, and loves to chase after destruction. As to what caused Mr. Trapp to become this way is not known. However, one could speculate that Mr. Trapp has become a villain due to trauma, mental illness, greed, the love of power, or all of the above. However, this does not excuse or justify his actions or behavior. Mr. Trapp's character is utilized in the story by challenging the protagonist, Hannah, which in turn leads her to become a more stronger, resilient, self-aware, mature human being whose faith in God grows as it has kept her sane through her most darkest moments in life. Speaker or narrator. The speaker or narrator is Hannah Crafts or Hannah Bond. The story is said to be a fictionalized autobiography. The story is considered to be the first novel written by an African American woman and the only known one written by a fugitive slave. There are some real people and events that have been incorporated into this story. John Hill Wheeler and Ellen Sully Wheeler were actual slave owners in North Carolina, and they are mentioned in the book. Hannah was enslaved by them. It is written in first-person narration, which makes the story come to life. It reminds the reader that what they're reading is not the figment of someone's imagination, but that the things that happen in the story actually occurred in real life. The first-person point of view makes you feel like the author is directly talking to you and sharing intimate details about her life story to a friend. You develop an emotional connection with the story and author. The first-person perspective makes it feel like the author is addressing you directly and talking to you personally. It bridges the space between the past and present. Discussion questions. Throughout the Bondwoman's narrative, Crafts makes many allusions or references to Christianity and the Bible. Which biblical character do you think Mr. Trapp represents? Would Mr. Trapp represent the enemy of God and all things good, Satan, a murderous tyrant like King Herod, or an ordinary sinner in need of salvation or redemption? Also, is the theme of this story, slavery, a metaphor for something spiritual, such as being enslaved to sin and seeking freedom or salvation from it, and finally making it to the north or entering heaven? In the bondwoman's narrative, Crafts describes Mr. Trapp as having a rapid gleam of hate or satisfied malice in his eye. Based off this description of his facial expression, do you think people who are similar to Mr. Trapp in real life or hold similar oppressive views and abuse their authority and power have the stereotypical look of a bad guy, or are people in real life able to hide their true selves better? Could you tell who is a bad guy just by appearance alone? Why or why not? And that is all. Thank you.